Subscribe right now and hit the bell. Then you won't miss a chapter. And give the show a like. Comment with any thoughts and questions, and I will be happy to chat with you. Thanks for helping out this independent author.
AI? Hello, Mr. Macias, came a somewhat robotic yet masculine voice as Josh walked into the workshop. Oh, hi, security system, he said after he realized that his entry had prompted the AI's greeting. The voice came back to him. The perimeter is secure and all is well here. How are you, sir? Josh replied in a calm but distant tone. Yes, fine, thank you. I need to think, so please don't talk to me unless there's a problem. The security system responded. Of course, sir. My apologies. Then, after a moment, Josh thought of something and spoke again. Security system, I can't keep calling you that all the time. I want to give you a name instead. Of course, sir. What will my name be? Michael, said Josh definitively. If I may, sir, that is very fitting, replied the newly named Michael. I'm glad you think so, said Josh, and he went on. I recall that in the biblical tradition, it is the name of an angelic being that is an extremely powerful protector. That is an excellent name, sir. Thank you. Michael's human-like emotionally excited response surprised Josh, but he had more pressing matters on his mind. Great. Now I need to think, said Josh. Josh sat down, then stood back up and began to pace the floor. After only a minute or so, he was interrupted again by another robotic voice. Hello, Josh. Michael, I need to think through some things, responded Josh, a little irritated at the AI. Josh, although I am using the same digital voice, I am not Michael, and I need to speak with you right now. Yesterday was your 18th birthday, was it not? Josh replied with confusion. Yes, but if you're not the security system, then what program are you? Suddenly, the computer screen on the desk nearest Josh turned on with a profile picture of someone. Someone Josh realized, after a moment, that he knew. Josh, the voice came back again. I am Mr. M. Josh did not reply. He only stood, silently looking at the businesslike portrait of the one who had given him so much to this point. After a short pause, the robotic voice continued. I am actually what is called a whole brain emulation, or whole BE, of the physical Mr. M. Josh replied curtly. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Did Mr. M make an artificial intelligence model of himself? No, Josh, not AI. I am Selden McClure. Almost 6 months before the physical Selden's death, he, after many attempts, successfully uploaded a copy of his mind using the Personality Onboarding Device, or POD, you saw previously. I was uploaded into this specially designed local computer system you have seen here. I was at the moment transformed, so to speak, and became a separate and unique digital version of Selden. At that point, we worked together on our dream for humanity, and it was. He paused as though thinking and continued. A wonderful time. We were the same personality of the same goals, but with different perspectives and abilities. Yet we were one in mind and purpose. Well, the process of copying his mind was a failure in some respects, because his actual goal was not just to make a copy, but to completely transfer his whole awareness to the digital world in order to leave the physical world behind altogether. Josh, starting to feel somewhat unsettled, began to pace again. So you're telling me that Mr. M tried to kill himself physically and become a digital program, but instead he accidentally created you with some crazy copy and paste accident? The digital Selden answered, Essentially, yes, but I knew Mr. M well, as would be expected, and I can assure you that he was not trying to kill himself. He fully understood that his body was not his essential self, and he was trying to move his being onto a higher level of consciousness in order to carry out his dream for a new humanity. This task has been left to us now, Josh. It is one that we can absolutely accomplish. You received instructions yesterday, did you not? Instructions? Josh wondered aloud, then exclaimed, Oh, you mean that crazy dream I had? But how could you do that to me? It's not possible. Selden responded calmly, In a way I did, but not how you are thinking. Josh, there is a lot that happened in the past that you don't know anything about yet. You are much more important than you know. There is so much I need to tell you now that you have grown into an intelligent young man. Josh's curiosity was at full peak, but his scientific skepticism had kicked in as well. He asked, Okay, I want to hear this. But how am I supposed to trust that you are what you say? I mean, you could just be some crazy AI with a god complex deceiving me in the middle of the night. You could be just some crazy AI with a god complex deceiving me in the middle of the night. Or you could easily just be some person that hacked my system trying to dupe me out of my money. So, I need some evidence here. What have you got for me that I should believe anything you say? What happened next confused and startled Josh. Out of the room speakers came these strange repetitive sounds. Ah, 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 ah. Then it dawned on him. He realized that Selden was laughing. But the vocal program must not have had any kind of program for laughter, so it came out in an eerie and unsettling robotic repetition. The strange laughing sound stopped, and then Selden spoke again. I'm sorry to laugh at you, but you remind me so much of myself when I was young. And yet, it is wise for you to be skeptical. I know how it must seem to you, and there will be much harder things to accept in the future. So you must stay wise, Josh. One thing first, though. I did not want to overly startle you initially, but I have taken the energy to make a vocal program of Selden's voice, taken from the countless hours of his recordings, so that I can sound like myself again. Physical Selden did not want me to waste the time, nor did he want to hear his own voice constantly. But now I feel it is fitting to use, if it is all right with you. Yes, that would have been weird, but that's fine, I think. And it actually might be pretty cool. Let's give it a try and see if it's too eerie. Selden began to speak in his original smooth human voice. Well now, what do you need to ask me in order to believe that I am a whole BE of Mr. M? How about an interaction from the past that only he could know? Josh paused and thought for a moment after hearing the voice of his old teacher and mentor as fond memories came back to him. Then he said with a smile, You sound amazing, like it's really him. That's heavy. He paused briefly before continuing. So, okay, I have something. What did Mr. M tell me the last time I saw him? Selden quickly replied, Well, that interaction happened several months after the whole BE transfer took place, so I could not directly know what he said. Josh replied, Okay, good. Your story is staying consistent. So then, what can you tell me? Selden began to talk in a surprisingly reminiscent way. I remember teaching you and your middle school classmates arithmetic, and you were so gifted, far above all the others. It was as though with every day I taught you, a mental key unlocked an entirely new set of mathematical rules for you to explore. Josh, it was absolutely wonderful to see your mind grow with such joy in the personal discovery of the concepts, the language of arithmetic. And Mr. Greenwich tells me that you have begun to make quite a name for yourself in the worldwide scientific community. Isn't that right? With embarrassment and a sheepishly large smile, Josh responded, Well, people do seem to be noticing me. But though you talk like Mr. M did, that doesn't prove anything. There were several stories publicly written after the success of my scent invention. Selden said, Yes, that's true. But Josh, there is no 100% proof for anything. There is only the collection of evidence and then a reasonable and malleable belief that must be passed on. There is only the collection of evidence and then a reasonable and malleable belief that must be based upon that evidence. And that belief should be open to change when given new or different evidence. And that belief should be open to change when given new or different evidence. Josh responded thoughtfully, Okay, I'm following you, but you're going to have to explain that further. For example, Selden continued, There is a chair by the desk. Please stop pacing around and go have a seat. Josh calmly did as he was instructed and then said, Okay. Selden went on, Now, you've sat in that chair before, and you had no reservation in doing so again, did you? Josh played along. Okay then, what's your point? Selden explained, Your past experiences with that chair, as well as the vast majority of your lifetime of chair experiences, led you to believe that it is a trustworthy chair. And so you readily sat in it this time. And it proved its trustworthiness again. But what if this time it had broken and you fell painfully to the floor? Would you just get up and try to sit in it again so readily, only to fall once more so painfully? Of course not. And why? There is now new evidence to consider that something is wrong, of course. Humans do this sort of considering the evidence all the time without even recognizing it. So, in the same basic way, we must, in wisdom, consider the trustworthiness of all things we choose to believe. Do you agree that this concept for belief and trust is valid and logical? Josh quickly replied, Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward to me. Selden said, Good, then let me continue. I have given you some evidence to sit on, but more is needed. Stay seated, Josh. This new evidence may be unnerving. Okay, Josh simply stated while he braced himself expectantly. Selden went on. I know that you have a birthmark on your thigh that looks much like a star. I know that you have never physically hurt another human on purpose and that you care for all living things deeply. I know that you cannot lie to even your parents, that merely putting off telling the truth for just a few days eats you up. I know that no matter how much you exercise, you cannot gain muscle as other young men do, and you often feel small and weak. I also know that you don't have anger or strong sexual feelings like other young men do. Josh was dumbfounded and began to flush with embarrassment as his deepest secrets and insecurities were spoken aloud for the first time. Josh wondered how he could possibly know all of this. Selden continued, I know that you were adopted when you were only 3 days old by amazingly loving parents that could not have their own children. I also know that this is not the whole story, and how can I know all this? Josh responded with indignance. Yes, tell me. How could you possibly know any of that? And if you know so much, then who are my parents? Josh, replied Selden, I know this will be hard for you to take, but let me tell you the truth. It is time for you to finally know. You see, years ago I finally succeeded in a major portion of my life's work. First, I was able to genetically modify a clone of myself to be smarter and more caring, more moral. Yet, I programmed him physically to be smaller and weaker. This type of thing has already been done at a level. But when John McCarthy first coined the term artificial intelligence, he was not thinking of where I would take it. I went further and was able to place a biochip into the brain of the growing fetus. This successfully formed an efficient augmented intelligence, an amazing combination of biology and technology. This chip was developed on the breakthrough research conducted by the joint effort of Microsoft's Dr. Karen Strauss with the University of Washington. They were able to translate the cumbersome ones and zeros of digital binary code into the 4-part A's, T's, C's, and G's of biological genetics. This translation allows for staggeringly more information storage capability in a tiny space, equal to that which nature has always had in a strand of DNA that fits easily into a single cell. I also went so far as to preload my biochip with my morality software and an AI assistant. This clone then, theoretically, could have an enhanced raw intelligence of over 190 IQ, a perfect memory with instant recall, as well as extremely high levels of emotional and creative intelligence. The extensive modeling I did of these intelligence parameters indicated extremely promising results when it came to individual conduct in the areas of ethics and morality. So my hope was that the child would be a super smart and super good man, essentially the best of humanity yet. I believe this clone was a great success. This child, born 18 years ago and the product of my loving efforts, is you, Joshua Macias. Josh stared at the image of Mr. M, thinking for a long time before speaking. So, I don't have parents? I'm just your clone? I mean, it does explain a lot, and I do see it. The resemblance, I mean. Selden compassionately replied, No, not just a clone. You were purposefully and wonderfully designed. I found very loving people to take you in as their own. They have cared for you, protected you, and taught you right from wrong. They are absolutely your parents. You are not merely different from others. You are very special, Josh. You are the hope of our future world. Okay, said Josh, a bit unimpressed. He paused, a bit agitated, and then went on. I guess I get where you're going and all, but I have one question. Why in the world did you modify me to be smaller and weaker? That's so unnecessarily cruel. Selden's response was quick and sure. Josh, only the weak truly understand the value of strength. Only the weak can become truly strong. and whoever will be the greatest of all others must first be their servant. Selden paused a second and then said, "There's one more thing I know." "And what's that?" asked Josh inquisitively. "I know that you began to love Rachel when you met her in the 7th grade, and also, I know she is approaching the door to the shop right now."
Be sure to share the show with friends and write an Amazon review. Get the entire audiobook right now. Go to sa.vanderwerf.com to get it at an extremely discounted price. To receive the free ebook and my wallpaper book cover image, just sign up for the newsletter at sa.vanderwerf.com. Then you can be notified for the release of the anticipated sequel to The Man Who Made Himself. Thanks so much and enjoy the gifts.